Happy Independence Day. Let's get
In the proud spirit of America and in the proud spirit of our great country.
I just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
I just want to play that the whole time. I think that says it all right there. That gets me fired up. Man, happy Independence Day, or as a friend of mine said this morning, happy No King's Day. Sorry, England, we get the day off because we won the war. So it's so thankful for this great country that we live in. A lot of flaws, but still the greatest country in the history of the world. And I love it, man. Last night we went to Chickasha, celebrated with the Patriots down there, and an amazing fireworks display put on by Vital Church. And I feel like the whole community came out to Vital Church. It was a great event. I had a chance to offer up the prayer and the pledge, and just a warm reception. But man, I just love the community events. You have events like that. At least when I go to them, I'm like, why do we not do this more often? But there is just a common bond, obviously, that happens on July 4th, where there's this awareness of the freedom that we enjoy that is unique in all of human history. And it's worth celebrating. So we celebrated big last night with some great Patriots in Chickasha. And now we're going to just enjoy family. We're going to have a little cookout, I'm sure, later. But thankful for this country. I want to bring you a little word this morning. I hope you're doing well. I think I'm getting the comments rolling. So I, let those comments roll. I'm going to look at some of our history, just what happened on this day back in July 4th, 1776. And then we're going to look a little bit at the big, beautiful bill, of course, that we're all talking about. Trump, man, he just continually delivers and pushed for this bill to be passed by today. Looks like he'll be signing it. And I don't know if there's ever been a president in American history that has had this much influence over the legislature. Whenever he demands it, wants it, asks for it, requires it, well, it seems like he gets it most of the time. So very significant there. I'm flipping through my word here this morning to find find Galatians. It's funny. I get a new Bible, and it's like it takes me a minute to find where I'm going. But I'm actually looking at the Founders Bible this morning. I broke this out. I haven't used it a lot, but it's just a great Bible that has extra commentary and contributions from David Barton with Wall Builders. And so we were able to give one of these Bibles away on our Oklahoma Rising event last Saturday. And thanks to a generous donor. And it's a really neat Bible. I mean, like I said, has the extra commentary by David Barton. If you don't know who he is, check him out. Great Christian historian and doing good things with Wall Builders. It's got so much extra commentary on here. It makes it difficult for me to find where I'm going. But I wanted to read you out of Galatians 5 this morning. Because this has kind of been one of those verses that is giving direction for my campaign, but Galatians 5:13, and of course, speaking on freedom on this great day of independence. And it says, Galatians 5:13, for you were called to freedom, brethren. Only do not turn your freedom into an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. And, this has become a very important verse to me, especially entering into this campaign. And as we consider how to maximize freedom and how to protect God-given freedom, this gives us instruction on how to use freedom. Do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. And how we use our freedom is an indicator of the steward that we are in life. I had a chance to go out and ride horses with a great man of God, very much, he carries just a load of wisdom, but Lou Sterrett, who has the Sermon on the Mount ministry, and he spoke to me for a while just about stewardship and how everything that God gives and God creates is great, is good, but there's also a requirement to steward what he gives. And when that thing is not stewarded, it can actually be harmful. And so whether you're talking about sex or a bucket of water, he said, water in a desert or water whenever you're thirsty is a good thing, but you can also drown in water. And so your relationship with that water is vital. Same thing with sex. Sex in the right context is like a fire. Again, fire is another example, but fire contained and used responsibly is a great thing, providing warmth and heat and life, but it can also burn down your house. Same thing with sex and, food. Food, obviously a blessing and a good thing and required to live, but you can also overeat. You can eat the wrong things and it can kill you. And you can go on and on and on. But all of the good things that we have and we enjoy that must be stewarded correctly to reap the full benefit of them. And when they're not, they can actually be a negative and do harm to us. Freedom is one of those things that we enjoy. Freedom, it's a good thing. God desires us to be free. You look throughout biblical history, which is world history, and you see how God continuously led people towards freedom. He desired the slaves to be set free. And that's ultimately what Jesus did when he died on the cross, and he set us free from the ultimate bondage, which is sin. That's obviously represented in many other examples, like in the slavery of God's people in Egypt that Moses led them out of, led them through the Red Sea into the promised land. And this is the agenda of God. The goal of God is for his people to be free, to enjoy freedom. And I believe that America is the product of God's hand. I believe that he has orchestrated it, designed it, and that is the reason why we are the greatest country in the history of the world. So when we look at Galatians 5:13, it talks about this freedom, that we were intended for freedom, but it's about how we use this freedom. We don't use it for our own selfish desires, but instead we use it to serve one another. And this is where capitalism can go wrong. I believe in capitalism. I believe that it taps into our basic human nature of needing incentive. We need incentive to succeed and to move forward, to grow. But what we do with that, with the fruits of our labor, is important. And we were intended not to accumulate, not to be hoarders, but to actually be big givers. And as we give, we find life. And it really aligns us with the heart and the nature of God himself, who is the biggest giver. So I just encourage you with this word about freedom this morning, the ultimate freedom that God gives us in Christ was intended to set us free from the demands and the temptations and pulls of the world. We're free from all of that. We're led only by truth, only by life, only by God himself. But he leads us not so we could just hoard and benefit ourselves, but to actually give away, to actually love one another by serving each other. And when we operate that way, that's what changes the world. We need desperately a revival. We need a reformation in the church. We need a cultural transformation that will ultimately result in transformation in the capital, transformation in government. But we have a long way to go. We've jumped the tracks culturally, leaving our biblical foundation. And this is why we have broken homes. This is why we have fatherless homes. This is why we have drug addiction and all of these things, and that the government now is trying to jump in and fix, but the government can't fix soul issues. The government can't fix spiritual issues. And fundamentally, that's what that is. So this is why I lead off on these morning talks with the word. We got to get back to truth. And that's the word this morning, Galatians 5:13. I just encourage you to meditate on that. Let that sit in and soak in, and pray about how this is applied to your life, about the freedom you enjoy, not only in this great country, but also in Christ, and how you're using that freedom. How are you stewarding that freedom, not just to benefit yourself, but your neighbor and your family and those around you? Man, I could just spend this whole time just in the word. I want to, maybe I'll have to have a separate broadcast just for that. I think it's so needed. But I want to get to the big, beautiful bill and some of those concerns. And I'm going to refresh you on your history of what happened this day back in 1776 with the Declaration of Independence that set the course for the founding of this great nation. So important that we review our history. We remember our history. We teach the history to our children. And one day we're going to be teaching, one day our children will be teaching their children about July 4th, 2025, when President Donald Trump signed the big, beautiful bill. And time will tell how this impacts our country. But this is one of those hard things. I don't like big bills. It's hard to call it beautiful. In the end, I believe that I would vote for this bill, mainly for this reason. There's so much needed provisions in this bill that if we tried to divide this up into 100 different bills, we would not get these passed before midterms. And midterms are coming, and who knows what will happen. So the House could flip. Then I believe Donald Trump is going to be able to do far less. I'm not going to say that he's going to be entirely crippled, but it could be close to that. So there are so many provisions in this bill that are needed that I understand his logic here is, and the reason why he's pushing for one big, beautiful bill, because it has to happen before midterms, just in case. Now, I am hoping and praying that we can hold on to the House, we can hold on to the Senate, but there are some recent moves, especially with regard to immigration, that might put that in jeopardy. So we'll have to watch for that. But that is the biggest reason why I say this had to happen now. And, why it's wrapped up in one bill. I still won't call it beautiful. I don't think that it is, it deserves that label. But I want to read from the official statement from Congressman Josh Brecheen, obviously a man and a representative that I respect. I believe, our most conservative representative from the state of Oklahoma. And I know that he wrestled with this bill as well. So I'll be getting an interview with him here pretty soon. My last one had to be rescheduled because he was fighting the flu, but he is over that. He's been consumed with this important task. So I'll get a live update from him here pretty soon. But this was his official statement on X. And he said, after a long night working with the White House and leadership, I voted yes to pass the One Big Beautiful Bill after I was convinced our efforts would result in the best possible outcome. We had major concerns going into this week after the Senate reversed several conservative provisions we fought for in the House, including major deficit and spending cuts and priorities like ending the Green New Scam. Some of these changes were created by the parliamentarian, others were not. These changes were of grave concern to me. While today's bill is not perfect, after days of prayerful consideration and examination of the facts, I ultimately came to the conclusion it was the best bill we could politically achieve after meeting with the president, the vice president, and their team. The explanation of the problem of going back to the Senate for further changes and how that would have only made the bill worse because the liberals of the conference would extract more liberal concessions, not conservative concessions, that resonated with me. The Freedom Caucus fought to make this bill better at every stage, and we succeeded. We secured transformational wins for fiscal responsibility, border security, energy independence, welfare reform, and tax relief. We secured significant commitments on continuing to move the ball forward on the America First agenda. And thanks to President Trump's leadership, the work to dismantle the swamp's agenda isn't finished, it's just getting started. So I thought it was a great statement from Congressmember Keene. Also have some comments here from Chip Roy. And Chip said, the swamp tried to stop the president and those of us fighting to deliver substantial spending reductions and reforms at each and every step of the way. We won fights they said we could not win. We added significant resources to secure the border. We have extended tax relief for millions of Americans. We have passed the largest mandatory spending reduction in American history, and we have terminated about half of Joe Biden's signature accomplishment, the Green New Scam. So he said, celebrate today, fight again tomorrow. Lots of criticism, obviously, surrounding this bill, especially with regard to the national debt and how this could potentially add to the national debt. This is something I've been spending some time looking at. And, so much of this is based on the economy, the predictions and projections of our economy, of Trump's economy, the economy under the Trump administration, and whether that will be, how robust that economy will be. Now, the prediction from Trump is he's really relying heavily on the tariffs, and that the tariffs will generate enough revenue to overcome the addition to the deficit. Of course, looking here at my notes here, the Congressional Budget Office has a different projection, and they project that the Big Beautiful Bill will increase the federal deficit by $2.4 trillion over the next decade. And this is, I believe, based on the comments from individuals like Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, this was their biggest problem, which is understandably legitimate, that if this only adds to the national debt, what are we doing? Well, I think that, again, that part of this is trusting the deal maker, trusting Donald Trump and his economic prowess here, his understanding of the economy and business. And he made a move with the tariffs and the hard negotiations with so many countries around the world that many were recoiling about, saying, what is he doing? He's putting us at odds with every country in the world, yet every country in the world came back to the table and made a deal. So I believe that is going to result in a better, stronger American economy. And that coupled with these tax cuts will, I believe, long term reverse the trend and start reducing our national debt. I know there are arguments going the other way. So love to hear your thoughts on it. But I have confidence that you'll let this tariff situation play out. We have so many countries that are coming now into the homeland, into America, to start their manufacturing here. And man, I believe that will bolster the economy. Now, there is the provision there that, well, how many of these jobs will be automated eventually? You know, initially possibly increasing jobs in America, but how many of these will eventually be replaced? Well, that's a big speculation. I mean, some of these jobs can't, I believe, and won't ultimately be replaced, but some of them will. And only time will tell if they will be and how quickly. We don't know, but we do know their manufacturing is coming back to the States, and we will have, at least temporarily, an increase in jobs. And I believe this will boost the American economy and solidify us once again as the leader, the economic leader around the world, the greatest exporter of goods around the world. And, I have confidence that Trump knows what he's doing here. He's not perfect. He can make mistakes, but when it comes to business, he's blessed. And I think that this is going in the right direction. I still have concerns. Like, you can tell my hesitancy, but I want to highlight some of the good things that are in this bill. The clean energy tax credits. So this accelerates the phase out of production and investment tax credits for wind and solar projects. Now, again, addressing the Green New Scam. And, this is an area of concern for so many Oklahomans. So if there was one thing in the bill that impacts us, it would be this, I believe. Wind and solar projects must begin construction within 12 months of the bill's enactment. Now, here's the caveat here that still concerns me. Based on this, that they must begin construction within 12 months of the bill's enactment or be operational by the end of 2027 to qualify for these credits. I would have preferred to see these credits just terminated. But now there's this phase out, and that they must begin construction within 12 months. Well, what does that mean, begin construction? I think that it's possible that we're going to see a big push to buy land, to put some money down, to start construction, and then that's enough to qualify them for these future tax credits. So I think that we need to watch for that, this massive rush from these wind and solar companies to come in here to Oklahoma, put a little money down to secure it and qualify them for these tax credits, because they can say that, well, they started construction within the 12 months of the bill's enactment. But we also have advanced manufacturing tax credits, and the bill terminates credits for wind energy components sold after December 31st, 2027. Again, I would have preferred an immediate termination or a quicker phase out. This takes it all the way to December 2027. And it phases out credits for other eligible components such as critical minerals starting 2030. And then we have a hydrogen production tax credit. The clean hydrogen production credit is set to expire January 1st, 2028. Now, we were on the list of those who would qualify for the hydrogen production tax credit. Oklahoma was the hydrogen production tax credit. And I asked the question, did Oklahoma have one of these hydrogen hubs? Because I remember voting on this when I was serving in the Senate, provisions for a hydrogen hub to come to Oklahoma. But I had to go back and look. we did not receive funding to become one of these hubs, these hydrogen hubs. And that was under the bipartisan infrastructure law under Biden. So Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana formed the HALO Consortium to apply for $1.25 billion in federal funding to establish a regional clean hydrogen hub. But on October 13th, 2023, Biden announced the selection of 7 hubs across 16 states, and Oklahoma was not included. So this hydrogen production tax credit will impact us less because we were not included in those 7 that were selected. Just a few more things that are in this bill. We have the clean vehicle and residential energy credits. So this eliminates the tax credits for EVs, electric vehicles. And that would have been up to $7,500 for new EVs and $4,000 for used by September 30th. It eliminates the tax credits by September 30th, 2025. And it ends credits for residential solar, energy efficient home improvements, and leased solar installation within 180 days of enactment. And that it was a provision that Elon Musk was not happy about, and which was interesting because, it seemed that at first he was all for the EV, the cut of the EV tax credit, but then it shifted, and some are saying, well, that's due to the decline in the Tesla stocks, that they started feeling the pinch a little bit, feeling like they could use those tax credits, and then he turned. So, this was, he shifted, and now he was fighting for those tax credits. Now, that it was kind of, about June, we saw this shift, and he publicly condemned the Senate's revision of the tax bill, which accelerated the elimination of EV tax credits. And Musk, he called the bill incredibly destructive to the EV industry and American jobs, warning it prioritized industries of the past, meaning oil and gas, over clean energy. And he specifically criticized the bill for cutting EV and solar credits while leaving oil and gas subsidies untouched. He said there is no change to tax incentives for oil and gas, just EV and solar. And he called this very unfair. And let me know your thoughts on this. This is obviously directly impacting Oklahoma, an oil and gas state. And while we have this big push for wind and solar here in the state, we have been pushing to end subsidies, state subsidies towards wind and solar. Now, if we see a reversal of the federal subsidies, we may see a slowdown of these projects here in the state, which I know that a lot of people, including myself, support that. This is one of the areas where I said, when elected to governor, I would impose a moratorium on all new green energy projects. This is solar, this is wind, this is carbon capture. And we have a lot of questions that need to be answered, a lot of regulations that need to be put in place still when it comes to these green energy projects. And, Musk refers to the oil and gas industry as, what do you say here? As old industries of the past. They're very much, I would disagree with Musk there. I don't see oil and gas going away anytime soon. I think that the left especially would love to see it go away because of their delusion when it comes to the impact of oil and gas on our environment. We have the cleanest oil and gas industry that has ever existed, and it's only improving. It's not getting worse, it's getting better. So we need to protect that, especially here in Oklahoma. I don't think that we're going to see a reversal of that or the elimination of the oil and gas industry anytime soon. So let me see. Yeah, those are just some highlights there of the big, beautiful bill. I mean, of course, we can see here all day. trying to highlight. Let me see. I had some more notes on. Okay. Here's some good things in the bill that I wanted to highlight. Of course, Trump following through on his promise for no tax on tips and overtime. That was in the bill. It remained. And largest tax cuts in history. The bill delivers what Republicans describe as the largest tax cut in American history, providing significant tax relief to individuals and businesses, permanently extends the Trump-era tax cuts and job acts from 2017, preventing the largest tax increase in history. If those were to expire, we would see that massive tax increase. So that was critical that those tax cuts were preserved. And Americans earning between $30,000 and $80,000 are projected to see a 15% reduction in their tax bills, with an average savings of $5,000. And another huge provision in this bill is the border security. So it includes significant funding for border security. It supports mass deportation operations with at least 1 million annual removals of undocumented immigrants, and aims to defund sanctuary cities. Now this right here has become, I believe, a critical issue with Trump, some saying wavering on the immigration issue, coming out strong and hard on it, but now pulling back the reins, saying we do not need to deplete the work supply of our farmers and hotels, and getting a lot of criticism from the right, which recently at his speech, he called the serious far right. And some speculation there about what did he mean by serious far right? And do you fall in that category of serious far right? Because we thought you did when we elected you. These are comments that I'm seeing in response to his statements yesterday on immigration. So, I'm seeing a lot of comment on the 1 million provision. So the bill would support mass deportation operations with at least 1 million annual removals. And some are saying that is far too low. 1 million removals. I mean, it's a pretty good number, but when we consider that we've seen far more than that come across the border in just 4 years, then the call is for, I believe, a larger scale of removal. But it does say at least 1 million. So I'm okay with that, setting that base level where we're not going to drop below that. We can definitely exceed it, and we should. But obviously starting with the criminals, obviously starting with those that especially came over in the last 4 years. The area of controversy is lying with those that have been here for 20 or 30 years. Now, the necessary question is, you've been here 20 or 30 years. What have you done to work towards citizenship? What have you done to secure a work visa? Do you currently have one? Did it expire? What did you do about that? These are some important questions. We have provisions here already in place for work visas. We need to make sure that everyone, if they do not have citizenship, they have a legal provision for being here and working. I'm in favor of immigrants being here working, but we have provisions for them to do it legally. And if they're not here legally, there's no other choice but to deport them. This is, and I think that if Trump were to frame it that way, that, hey, we understand the situation for those that have been here long term, who now have roots, who now have children and grandchildren here, who may have started successful businesses. I know there's a lot of successful illegal immigrants, crazy. But why are you still illegal? And how did you get so successful remaining here illegally? I'm not in favor of illegals owning businesses in the United States. We need to ensure that that these work visas are properly applied, that those who are working here, have the proper documentation. And I just spoke to a friend of mine who's a pastor. He's from Australia, working diligently to do everything by the book to get his citizenship, him and his wife, to get their citizenship. And it's costing them thousands of dollars. And they've had to go back to Australia at least twice that I know of, because their education visa expired. I forget exactly what they have. I know one of them was an education visa, but they had to go back and reapply. And that's not an easy trip to go back to Australia. So yeah, it is inconvenient, but there's a system in place. We need to reform the system, but until we get that system reformed, we have to live by the law that is currently in place. Unless we do that, the law is pointless. So we need to start living by the law, enforcing the law, and those who are here illegally need to go make it right. If you've got to run back to Mexico, and I say run back, I know it's a trip, and it may not be quick. It may be that you have to be there for a time to reapply. That's the system we have in place. And what have you done over the last 20 or 30 years to work towards making sure you're here legally? So yeah, this is an area I would like to see Trump come down a little more strong on. And I think a lot of other conservatives are wanting the same thing. People are saying, hey, we voted you in to deal with immigration. Don't go soft on us now. All right. Let me see here. I mean, obviously the Social Security, the Medicaid is a major concern that was addressed. Work benefits, work requirement benefits for Medicaid and SNAP benefits. A provision in this bill imposes work requirements on able-bodied adults receiving Medicaid and SNAP benefits, requiring 20 to 80 hours of work per month, volunteering, education, and training. So I don't know why anyone would be opposed to this. The work requirements for able-bodied adults, and also removing the provision for illegal immigrants to receive Medicaid. All these good things in the bill. I'm trying to cover a lot in a short amount of time, so we're not diving deep into each one of these. But of course, we saw the prohibition of Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood or any other clinic providing abortion services. So, good to know that our tax dollars are not going to go towards funding abortion. It also reversed the Biden era mandates covering gender transition procedures. So we're seeing some reversal in that insanity, making things right there. Let's see. Boosting the domestic mineral development, I think a critical thing. We're seeing some activity here in Oklahoma. We talk about the nickel plant down in Lawton. So some moves to do some mining for these critical minerals that go into producing the batteries. That it seems that while we are an oil and gas state, and while I believe oil and gas will be here for generations to come, still we're going to need these critical minerals, and batteries, I believe, are here to stay. I say that with a bit of hesitation too, because some of these other new innovative energy processes, like hydrogen, I think it's possible they could surpass the battery. And I hope they do, honestly. There's so much, even the salt, what is it? I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head, but there's the new energy, the new battery that uses salt that requires nickel that we're mining in Lawton, that plant is focusing on. So there are so many other innovations that are happening right now with energy production that I have doubts whether or not our traditional battery that we know today will be around much longer. All right. Well, those are some highlights on the big, beautiful bill. Of course, it's expected to pass. I mean, it did pass. It's expected that Trump will sign it today, which was the deadline he gave. And here's another big one provision in this. It eliminates the requirements for reporting transactions over $600 on platforms like Venmo and PayPal to the IRS. Man, I can't wait for the ERS, the External Revenue Service, to replace the IRS. But that's a good provision there, the repeal of the gig economy regulations. All right. Well, those are some highlights there. I just wanted to cover some of those. We'll be watching for Trump's signature on that today. And, I don't want to make these too long, but I want to give you a little review of history before we wrap up today. And of course, send me your comments, your thoughts on the big, beautiful bill. I'd love to interact with you and respond to some of those. We got this going out on multiple platforms every single morning. Well, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. My Facebook pages, Rumble, the Jake for the State YouTube page. So go check out all of those. But in 1781, with the revolution in full swing, James, he was a 14-year-old kid working as a powder boy on the American privateer ship, the Royal Louis. Now, powder boys, I love this. They were the unsung heroes of naval battles. These are the young guys that ran gunpowder from the ship's hold to the cannons under heavy fire. It was dangerous. It was dirty. But James Fortin, he was a free African-American teenager from Philadelphia. He was 14 years old, and he helped shape the fight for freedom. He was born free in Philadelphia. He signed up to fight for the cause of liberty. And that summer, in 1781, his ship clashed with the British warship Amphion off the coast of Virginia. The battle was fierce. Cannonballs tore through the air, and the American crew was outnumbered. James darted below deck, dodging explosions, carrying gunpowder to keep the cannons firing. When the British boarded the ship, he fought hand-to-hand alongside the crew, just 14 years old, refusing to back down as his ship was captured. Most of the crew was taken prisoner, and James, as a black sailor, faced an uncertain fate. The British captain was impressed by James's courage and offered him a deal. Come to England, live as a free man, and serve the British. It was a tempting offer for a teenager staring down imprisonment or worse, slavery. But James, with the fire of the revolution in his heart, looked the captain in the eye and said, "I am here to fight for my country's freedom, not to betray it." He chose a British prison ship where conditions were brutal. We had disease, starvation, death. They were all common. But he survived 7 months on that prison ship, packed with hundreds of others, before being released in a prisoner exchange. He then returned to Philadelphia. He became a successful sailmaker, and he became a leading voice against slavery. He accumulated vast wealth, and he used it to fund the abolitionist movement. His story didn't end on the battlefield. It carried forward, proving that the fight for liberty wasn't just about independence from Britain, but it was about freedom for all. This 4th of July, let's honor individuals, often unsung heroes like James Fortin, the countless of other everyday Americans of all races who risked everything for the idea of a free nation. So thankful for this great country. Just a reminder, on this day in 1776, July 4th, also in Philadelphia, the Continental Congress officially adopted the Declaration of Independence. a document primarily authored by Thomas Jefferson. And it marked the 13 American colonies' formal announcement of their separation from British rule, asserting their right to form an independent nation, the United States of America. And so thankful for those who gave their liberties, their fortunes, their good names, sacrificed so much so we could enjoy what we enjoy today. True freedom. Let's steward it well. Let's steward it well and not use it to serve just our own selfish desires, but to actually, in love, serve one another. I think this will transform America. It will make America great again. And it will set up our children for years to come to enjoy this great freedom we enjoy today. So appreciate you guys tuning in and all of your diligence. Please be sure to share and like and subscribe and all of that to all of these platforms to help get the word out, to overcome the algorithm. We are seeing some throttling, which happens, on all these social media platforms. When you dive into political stuff, then they make it harder. They make it harder to get it out. So you make it easier the more you like and share. So if you would do that, just a simple click. And even if you comment on it, even better. I'd love to get your comments, your thoughts anyway. But so appreciate you guys. God bless you all. Be sure to remember that July 7th in Chickasha at Vital Church from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We're going to have a volunteer meeting out there. That's coming up Monday, so just around the corner. And then the following Monday on the 14th, we're going to have another volunteer meeting over in Oklahoma City. And so I'll post all of those for you as well. But love to connect with you. Love to come to your community. So if there's an opportunity to do that, I'd love to come and get in front of some people, meet you. But hey, God bless you all. I got to end one more time with this.